All right, so let's dive into this next one. After the No Kings protest this weekend, are you wondering why anyone would dress up like a chicken to protest fascism? Millions hit the streets and cities across America and the world on Saturday, many in silly inflatable costumes. According to the New York Times, this is called tactical frivolity. It's a way to undercut the accusation from Republicans that these protests were violent, hate-filled rallies. So, do you think using humor is an effective strategy, or does it diminish the message?
Interesting.
Big question.
It's
tough, huh?
Right?
People
Big
aren't
question.
sure. I mean, I do think it's clever. Like, here's the thing, that Trump and his team, they're all claiming that these were hate protests. These were, like, I Hate America protests. They were claiming that there were Antifa people, Hamas. Like, they were accusing all kinds of things about this. And then when you look at the footage and you're like, wait a minute. There's like a stuffy of a frog or whatever. Like how, and there's a kind of air of frivolity, an air of like goofiness. Like, they clearly are not people who are dangerous.
Yeah.
So I think that really is an important thing, that it's a temperature check almost of like what was happening there. And when there's an article, I know, there was an article in the New York Times, and they said frivolity and absurdity are kryptonite to authoritarians who project the stern father archetype to their followers.
Yeah.
And I think there's something very powerful when you think about it in that way.
Yeah, it's interesting because I call him toddler in a tiara. He's a toddler in tiara, and the protesters are just speaking to him and using the symbols that he understands, because I don't really think he reads a whole lot. So there's that. But it does undermine, something. We know that his administration and Trump himself, they don't have a sense of humor. So the whole idea is the poking fun. He can't even read the poking fun.
Yeah.
His AI team and social media team, however, they are using what they think is funny to put out stuff like this right after the protest. Take a look. So they created this and posted this on Trump's own, this was on Trump's own social media account.
Oh my Lord!
And guess what? Watch. Yeah. This is from the president's official social media accounts.
Can you believe that?
Shocking.
The message that sends is so profound that you think it's funny, an image of yourself as a king pooing all over American citizens. American citizens.
Listen, and this is coming from a group of people who politically gave Barack Obama a hard time for wearing a tan suit. Remember that? Remember that when that was considered very unpresidential? I think it's very interesting. I don't necessarily agree with this tactic, because I think when we look back in history, they'll look at this time as a very dark time. And when I look at American history, I think of another time that was really dark. It was during the Civil Rights Movement. And I just can't imagine that when Martin Luther King was fighting to end segregation in schools and for voters' rights and for people just to be treated like human beings, the idea of him being at a podium and just kind of adding a little humor or telling people to show up at a march, that sometimes people died at those marches, be like, yeah, dress up and let's have fun.
Yeah.
To me, when I look back at that was a dark time. And if they'd done that, it would have ruffled a lot of feathers and it wouldn't have been impactful. So I understand what they're trying to do, but to me, what's happening in the United States, and I don't need to give you the long list, we are seeing it every single day since he was inaugurated. Day after day, it's just an onslaught of things. It's a very serious time. So I feel like the Democrats, which I think a lot of Democrats right now are looking to, the Democratic voters are like, do something, say something. Where is the leadership? Please do not dress up in this stuff. We need to get ourselves out of this before we end up in this dictatorship, because this man does not want to leave office. There's some serious things going on. So for me, the costumes it doesn't wash with me. If I was an American citizen and I'm seeing, like, there are Latino families right now in Chicago who are asking their Caucasian friends to walk their children to school because they're afraid of being grabbed up by ICE. These are very dark times.
But there were a lot of Mexican and Latino protesters dressing up and using humor in the same way. Because I think that part of it is, and I'm not saying it's the only answer, but part of it is also trying to get new voters. Like, half the country.
Do you think dressing up is going to get someone to vote and change their position?
Because the Democratic Party is seen in a particular way. They are seen as not having.
They're not standing up to.
They're not standing up.
So why is dressing up in a fun costume? How's that going to change people's minds?
I think maybe what the attempt is to say that, like, hey, we're not as scary as some people has made us out to be. We're not this, very serious, people. That we're actually we're on the same side as you. We're meeting where we can, because what we all can agree on, for people who are not happy with their vote for Trump, is that we want him out. So they're trying to be like a safe place to meet. I think
That's
that's
interesting.
interesting.
I don't think Democrats are scary at all. I think Republicans
think
are scary.
it's an interesting thing because I don't think everybody was dressing up.
No.
I think there were some people who clearly are very scared. I do wonder if there's a little bit of privilege at play. When you take a look at the protesters, they are a cross-section of America. I think if you are feeling, quote unquote, safer, to your point, who's a little safer right now, even though Americans are getting snatched up off the streets? It's Latino and brown Americans who are getting snatched up off the street. I think if you are still feeling safer and you are in a position of privilege, dare I say, and you're trying to speak up for those who cannot put on a costume, who don't think this is funny, but they also know that this is the way to get at this president. We are not, when you invite a clown into the White House, you know what happens? Everything turns into a circus.
Amen.
And what has happened is I think these costumes are, it's the same way that why do people dress up at Carnival or, you know, during Lent? Those costumes are meant to poke fun at power. You actually have a very deeply political meaning
And it's
under
certainly
it,
not
right?
exclusive
So,
to America.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
I'm listening to you guys. This is such an interesting conversation. On one hand, to be honest, it feels like there's nowhere left to go except with satire. Like from where we're sitting as Canadians, it's like we're watching the most insane political satire that we've ever seen. So the idea to protest in earnest almost seems absurd because it is absurd. Do you know what I mean? Because
Well, they tried
everything
and it
feels
didn't
absurd.
work.
Exactly.
They tried the resistance.
But on the
It didn't
same
work.
hand, like the big complaint is that Democrats have not stood up effectively to authoritarianism. So enter this thing called tactical frivolity. And then that leads me back to what you were saying. Is that the answer?
Is that the answer?
Do you know what I mean?
think so.
That seems nuts to me too. But at the very least, people showed up. People showed up in the thousands.
7 million.
And so I think
7 million.
in the millions, I take that back.
Yeah.
So doesn't the fact that they show up speak louder than whatever costume that might have gone over most of our heads?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So the numbers speak.
You know, it would have
at
been
the very
really
end.
great if they stood up in front of a hospital that was about to close that was going to affect an entire community. That's also very effective.
That's also probably
Without the
more
costume.
effective.
So
Yeah. Fair.
Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.